Hey everybody, Bryan Zayn here with my review of WWE Stomping Grounds, which took place this past Sunday night in Tacoma, Washington. This show was given a lot of doom and gloom and despair from the get-go, from when this show was first announced. When you got the combination of, it was really a perfect storm for this show, because you've got, a lot of rematches from prior shows, many of which we didn't want to see in the first place, let alone a rematch of. It was a show that didn't get a whole lot of build. It was a brand new pay-per-view with kind of a goofy theme to it. They didn't really have any connection to anything going on, and also the dreary looking ticket sales going into it. There was a lot of empty seats in this show, but I will give the company credit where it's due. They did a very good job making it look and sound like a big raucous crowd. I think like 6,000 people were in the Tacoma Dome on this night, but they made it look big, and they obviously had a lot they couldn't show of the arena. I saw pictures where they curtained off an entire half of the arena, the hard cam side, but they moved everyone in there, and to their credit, the crowd was very much into the show. Tacoma loved them some WWE on Sunday night. They were pretty much into just about everything, and so I think that really helped the show, just on that level, carry it to a more passable, enjoyable product. Let's see how the wrestling matches up. In the kickoff show, a triple threat match for the Cruiserweight title on tap as Tony Nese defended against Drew Gulak and Akira Tozawa. This match from beginning to end, just balls to the wall excitement, really indicative of what 205 Live's been able to carve out for themselves as the product. With the exception of NXT, really different from everything else going on all the programming of the company right now. But this is just a really exciting match. One of my favorite spots is really kind of subtle in the grand scheme of things. At one point, Tozawa's got Gulak in an octopus hold, and Nese just like picks Tozawa up and hurls him into Gulak, which is a great little spot there. Tozawa with a giant senton onto both guys at once, breaking up Gulak's finisher. So many insane near falls here. Ultimately, Nese is knocked out of the ring. Gulak hits his torture rack neckbreaker on Tozawa to win the match and be crowned the new Cruiserweight champion. So, the champ, Tony Nese, not involved in the decision, which is a nice way of protecting him. But yes, Drew Gulak is your new Cruiserweight champion. I give this match 3.5 stars out of 4. Like I said, this is just an incredibly exciting matchup, and this woke the crowd up. It set the tone for really the rest of the show. And Drew Gulak is a guy who's been through a lot on 205 Live ever since its inception, and I think him winning the belt here is a great moment for him, finally getting his due. Very satisfying to see that conclusion. The show officially begins with the Raw Women's title match as Becky Lynch defends against that SSB herself, Lacey Evans. Props, by the way, to Lacey for her ring attire tonight. It was very on point. I just loved that ringmaster themed attire. This is a good, solid match, a great story being told here. However, things do kind of get off the rails in certain points. One, Becky Lynch is just calling spots very, very audibly, like John Cena and Triple H on their worst days level of very audible play calling here in the match. We also get a botch on Becky's part where she goes for this mule kick out of the corner and like just kind of this false start with it. The crowd knows it. They can tell that they screwed up here. But instead of like a "you fucked up" chant, which is pretty customary in something like that, we get a "Lacey sucks" chant. Like, oh, you're just like gonna go along for the ride. I did not expect that. Evans tosses her kerchief onto Becky, and Lynch responds with what looks to at first be like the mandible claw, using the kerchief in Lacey's mouth. You know what? I think it's enough time has passed since Mick Foley retired. I think we need to bring back the mandible claw as a finisher, and better yet, I think having a woman do that hold would be really effective. Like, imagine like a crazy Nikki Cross doing the mandible claw as a finish. Lacey mounts a huge comeback, ending with a kick to the body, but we get a kick out. She goes to the top, but Becky pulls her down, disarm her, and Lacey immediately taps out, and Becky wins this match here. I give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. I had to ding it half star because of all of the audible move calling by Becky and a couple of botches at times, but it's still a very strong opening matchup. I still say on the whole it's a much better match than what they had at Money in the Bank, which was good. I just think this one was better, and like I said, a very strong way to open the show. We get a vignette for Ali where it appears he's going to be a street vigilante from now on. Then we go to a backstage segment where Paul Heyman's seen leaving Baron Corbin's dressing room. He reiterates he's not going to be the guest referee in Corbin's match tonight, but he does remind everyone that Seth and Kofi better take care and better watch out because Boombox Brock could appear at any time still. Then Corbin himself leaves his dressing room and he tells Kayla he has selected his referee for the night. I thought it'd be funny if it was just some really anticlimactic thing where it's like, my referee is going to be Mike Chioda. He's a very objective official. Been around for a long time. I trust his judgment. Up next, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn take on Xavier Woods and Big E of the New Day. And from the get-go, Big E gets got. Kevin Owens hits him with a super kick off the apron. And then Kevin and Sami hit a flurry of attacks on Xavier Woods. Bunch of super kicks, a senton, Sami's Blue Thunder Bomb, Kevin's Frog Splash. Xavier kicks out of all of it. What the hell? Way to make some of your biggest moves in your repertoire look totally weak there. The whole story here, though, is Xavier getting beat to hell for the bulk of this match, and Big E, who's relatively fresh after he gets back on the apron, finally getting that hot tag, and the crowd is just, they explode. They go banana for it when he gets tagged in. People flip the hell out. Then they just uncork all these big moves between the four of them. It's really exciting stuff. Big E spears Sami through the ropes like he often does out of the ring. Always looks like he's going to kill himself. It makes me cringe every time he does it. But then Kevin hits Xavier with a stunner after he pulls Xavier off the top rope for the win for his team. So as I had hoped would happen, Kevin and Sami finally exact a little bit of revenge on the New Day for a change. I'm going to give this one 3 stars out of 4. Just another really good matchup, but would you expect anything less from these guys? You know, I thought the opening sequence was a bit of a bummer for me, and that kind of took me out of it for a minute, because like I said, it makes all these moves that you usually bust out later in the match look really weak. Like, these are some of your go-to false finishes, and like for you to have all of them so quickly together, just boom, 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 and for Xavier to kick out all of them with no assistance, it makes Xavier look strong as hell, but it also makes Kevin and Sami's moves look really weak, especially Kevin's senton and the frog splash. I know the frog splash he's beaten guys with, so for Xavier to kick out so early, that kind of stuck in my craw. Samoa Joe defends the U.S. Championship next against Ricochet, and I'll tell you what, if you're a fan of leg slaps, and this match and the previous match, you must just be in hog heaven right now, because it's all over the place. Lots of leg slaps going on, lots of big strikes exchanged between these two guys, to and fro, and like I kind of hoped would happen in this match, you got a lot of good combination of like the striking and the big power moves by Joe, combined with the high-flying expertise of Ricochet. Joe taking some of the flying moves by Ricochet in a really weird kind of video game glitch way, where he doesn't quite fall down like the normal way, like he's like stands there and then just kind of like timbers over. I thought it was pretty funny. Joe flips Rico by the leg, and Ricochet's bump he takes is absolutely incredible. This extra rotation on the backflip is pretty awesome. We get a clutch attempt, but Ricochet goes over the top rope and onto the apron, hits the guillotine. He rolls through his first 630 attempt, counters a clothesline, hits the knees, hits the 630 for reals this time, and wins the match. And holy crap, like, this was a big shocker for a lot of people for Ricochet to win the title like this. He's the new U.S. champion. I'm going to give this match 3.5 stars out of 4. It's one of my picks for match of the night. It's really neck and neck with another one later in the show, which I'll get to, but I think both guys just really brought it in this match, and I knew that their styles were going to mesh really well here, and I was not disappointed. And really, to add the cherry on top to an already entertaining matchup, was the surprise of Ricochet winning the belt as he did and getting this big coronation. It's his first championship since coming to the main roster. It is a bit of a shock. I didn't expect Samoa Joe to lose the belt as quickly as he did, but I'm not mad at it. I think that Ricochet winning is a good call. I think it's a nice welcome surprise for a show that does not have that high of expectations to begin with. For a title change like this to happen, it makes the show feel, makes the match at least, feel that much bigger. But of course, I also have to give the match a lot of love because this sign showed up in the celebration. After the match, Rico's congratulated in gorilla position by a lot of fellow wrestlers, including Triple H. Then we go right to the Smackdown tag title match as Daniel Bryan and Rowan defend against Heavy Otis, Tucker the Machine. Together, they are Heavy Machinery. It's going to be real hard for the fans to boo what Daniel Bryan and Rowan are doing here, since they are in Tacoma and Daniel is from Washington State. So it's going to be, a big old homecoming, big hero's welcome for the super bad heel Daniel Bryan. A lot of pro-Bryan chants here in a way where they go, there's We Recycle chants and Drive a Prius chants going on. So yeah, Heavy Machinery are the canonical baby faces in this, but it's going to be hard for them to do anything and get cheered for it, except for one moment, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But Otis gets up during the yes kicks, which is kind of a cool moment. He just absorbs them, and that's how he makes his big comeback. He suplexes Daniel there. Otis may be getting booed, but at least the Caterpillar is still over. That gets one of the biggest pops, at least from Heavy Machinery's side of the entire night. Tucker goes for a moonsault. Daniel tries to roll out of the way, but instead of rolling toward the corner to really get out of the way of the move. He rolls outward. He rolls toward the middle of the ring. And so Tucker's legs still clip Daniel on the connection there, which was pretty scary because that could have gone very badly for either man. It takes a long time in the match to get a face-off between Otis and Rowan. And that's something I think should have been held for the first portion of the match, not the very end, because we saw the story of Otis and Daniel a couple times in the match, and fans were clearly on Daniel's side here. I think if they maybe changed the order a bit and had the Otis-Rowan face-off as one of the first things to establish that, hey, here's the two big beefy guys, you know, and let's build that and revisit that at the end of the match, which they did, I think that would have been a stronger use. So that the timing of it just didn't really work well for me. But Otis does look strong with the big power slam onto Rowan there. We get Bryan getting a blind tag in. Tucker's also tagged in. Daniel goes for a dive, but Tucker cuts him off. Tucker dives onto Rowan, walks into a small package by the master of the small package, who would have guessed. So Daniel Bryan wins the match and retains for his team. The Planet's champions are still the Planet's champions. I give this one 2.5 stars. I thought the match was fun, not quite on the level of the previous tag team match we saw with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the New Day. Still very entertaining though. Heavy Machinery looking good in defeat, especially. I think Otis looked good as well, but Tucker also had some big moments here. The going to the air, the moonsault attempt, and the dive to the outside. Just very good looks by all four guys here. But yeah, Heavy Machinery looking strong in defeat. SmackDown Women's Championship up next as Bayley defends against Alexa Bliss with Nikki Cross in her corner. It's kind of almost a tale of two matches, or the match really goes into two very distinct different gears. Because in the first half of it, it's pretty much neck and neck between Bayley and Alexa, very big back and forth. Then after a corner post spot on the outside, Alexa takes over, and it's really just like, you know, 80-85% Alexa for the rest of this match here. And this match does go on for kind of a long time, almost to his detriment. There's definitely some lull points here. At one point, Alexa tries to do like a knee drop onto Bayley's arm, but she totally whiffs it. They got the absolute wrong angle for that. We get a sunset flip by Bayley into the turnbuckle on Alexa, and it looks really scary because first Alexa's legs clip the bottom rope as she's coming down, and then Alexa bumps on Bayley's legs, which are already kind of up in the ropes. That looked scary, and it could have been bad for, in particular, Bayley. That could have been like some kind of leg injury from that if they weren't careful. Alexa kind of pulls Nikki into the line of fire on the outside as Bayley goes for a dive. Bliss goes to the top rope, but Nikki gets in the ring and catches her off guard. In the confusion, Bayley stops Alexa, hits her with the belly to belly to win and retain. So the curse is broken. The worst fears we could have imagined are assuaged for now. Bayley finally gets a win over Alexa Bliss. Hallelujah. I'm going to give this one 2 stars out of 4. I think the match suffered from being a little too long and getting noticeably sloppy at times, but the story they told here I was a big fan of. You know, Nikki Cross getting involved, getting her emotions get the best of her, and Bayley pulling out that win. And it's not 100% like clean win either. Like, you know, I'm still holding out hope for a double turn. We didn't get it on Sunday. I still think that somewhere in the future we are going to get that. At the very least, we're going to get a Bayley heel turn, if not an Alexa face turn as well. But I think that there's seeds being planted for it, and I think that it was also after the match is over, like you could see Bayley hurling some venom at Nikki Cross for getting involved afterward before she celebrates. Like, get this kind of like mean side of Bayley just a little bit. Like, she's letting the mask slip just a little bit. So no double turn yet, but don't count it out just yet. Backstage, the new U.S. champion Ricochet takes some promo pictures with his new belt when the Good Brothers and AJ Styles show up and crash the party. AJ tells Rico he will see him on Monday night. Ooh, AJ and Ricochet, my body is ready, thank you very much. In a grudge match, Roman Reigns takes on Drew McIntyre with Shane O'Mac, the best in the world, in Drew's corner. This match begins with the brawl before the bell even rings. Roman hits the plancha to the outside onto Drew, chases Shane through the crowd, but Drew cuts him off in the process. Drew works over Roman here a lot, at one point just tying him into knots here. I've never seen Roman in this kind of precarious position here, submission-wise. Shane gets involved a lot as well. He eats a pair of Superman punches for his efforts, though, near the end. Roman hits the spear on Drew, but Shane pulls the referee out of the ring. He starts putting the boots to Roman, hits the coast-to-coast, of course he does, but he brings the referee back in and Roman kicks out. Roman with another spear after he dinks Shane out of the ring and wins the match. I'm going to give this one 3 stars out of 4. This was just a big old fight from start to finish. I do appreciate the work these two do with each other. I think that their styles, you know, kind of like Ricochet and Joe, but for different reasons, these two guys' styles work really well together. I think it's a nice hard-hitting match, which can be a lot of fun to watch. The added wrinkle of Shane getting involved, I think, made it, it was a good use of Shane as the meddling heel and stuff. I'm kind of disappointed that Drew took the L on this one. I feel that he needs big wins at this point in time. And, you know, I'm not saying Roman doesn't need the win, but it was one of those things where you kind of not flip a coin as to who's going to win. I think you could make an argument either or, but I was leaning more toward Drew winning. I was kind of hoping he would win. I'm bummed that he didn't win, but at least the match itself was entertaining. In the semi-main event, steel cage match for the WWE Championship as Kofi Kingston defends against Dolph Ziggler. Dolph gets the advantage a lot early on by using the cage as a weapon against Kofi here, grinding Kofi's face into the cage. Well, that's some good bloodless violence. Kofi finally turns things around on Dolph as Dolph overacts. We get a great dive by Kofi where he's clean on the cage wall, jumps down off the top rope, springboards, and does a twist and cross body. Kofi does hit the SOS, but Dolph kicks out. Dolph starts working on Kofi's leg, and Kofi grabs the ropes, but doesn't break the hold. You know, it can break up pinfalls, though, as we found out in the Miz-Shane match at Money in the Bank, but it also, you know, it can't result in a rope break either. We get a really cool spot where Ziggler almost scores an own goal by super kicking Kofi out of the ring, almost. Kofi slips out of an ankle lock and tries to go for trouble in paradise, but Dolph catches him, gets him back in the leg hold. Somehow it's countered into an ankle lock of Kofi's own, but Dolph rolls out of that. A zigzag, a super close kick out. Dolph with some close calls out of the door where he's like kind of backing up into going out the door into the floor, but eventually Kofi dives over Dolph. His legs clip the ropes about 8 times on the way down, and he face plants on the floor to win the match. He has to dive over Dolph to get out of there first, and that finish totally caught me off guard. It was one of the biggest audible pops I had in watching this show. So yeah, Kofi wins the match and is still your champion. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 4. This was my other choice for match of the night. This and the Ricochet Samoa Joe match for the US title earlier were my 2 top picks. This is a really fantastic match. I love the story. I love the action. That whole ending sequence with, you know, the fighting in the door area where Dolph might have won or Kofi might have won, and finally Kofi diving out. That just totally caught me by surprise. I loved it. The whole ending sequence was brilliant. The only reason I'm not giving this 4 stars out of 4 is because I think that in a match like this, where you're not allowed to go to an extra level of brutality, aka blood, then I think you need to compensate for it with more wild action, more crazy high spots in the ring. And we got a little bit of that in this matchup, but I don't think we did enough to really get it scratched the surface. And a side note before I go into the next match, as I was writing the notes on my computer for this matchup, I accidentally at one point wrote Dolph's name as Dilp, D-I-L-P, and I thought nothing of it at first, and I thought, you know what, there's a part of me that just wants to call Dolph Dilp from now on, but I'm going to leave it in your hands. Go to the comments section and vote for what you think I should call him from now on. Hashtag Team Dolph or hashtag Team Dilp. Backstage, Shane O'Mac and Drew the Mac are very angry as to what happened with Roman Reigns. Shane announces that on Monday there's going to be a 2-on-1 handicap match between the two of them versus Roman. Then we go to our main event for the Universal Championship as Baron Corbin challenges Seth Rollins. And the real hook here is, folks, who's going to be the special referee? Baron Corbin finally announces it, and it's Lacey Evans. Yes, the woman who lost to Becky Lynch, who they frequently mention here as Seth Rollins' girlfriend in the opening matchup. She's got the pinstripe here. She trips on her way to the ring. And I will say, I certainly didn't see this coming. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming. It was definitely a big surprise in that regard. We have an immediate conflict of interest here because Becky Lynch and Lacey are at odds, and so there's a connection with Becky and Seth, and Lacey and Becky. So lots of layers here, like an onion. Corbin jumps Seth from behind and whomps him a couple times with the trusty chair, all before Lacey rings the bell. How convenient. And right from the get-go, the fans are very much against whatever's going on here in the ring. There's a lot of different chants. There's "This is stupid" chant. There's an AEW chant at one point, a CM Punk chant. Boring. There's a "We want Becky" chants. Lots of chants going on here as this match goes on, and predictably so. The whole story is Lacey is completely biased against Seth and for Corbin. Like, there's fast counts for when Baron's pinning, slow counts for when Seth is pinning, which doesn't happen very often, like till near the end, really. And then to top it all off, it basically becomes Duchess of Queensberry rules. It's Calvin Ball, essentially, where, you know, Baron's been knocked out. He's been thrown through a powerbomb through the announce table, and Lacey slowly counts to 8, and then she goes, you know what? No count outs. And then later on, Baron's whomping Seth with the chair some more, and the bell doesn't ring, and Lacey says, you know what, it's no DQ. And then as soon as, you know, Seth does like the Falcon Arrow on the chair onto Baron, Lacey doesn't want to do the count. Like, she feigns an arm injury. Eventually, Seth finally confronts Lacey about it. Lacey slaps him a couple times, hits him with a low blow. Baron hits the end of days, and you think that's going to be it for the champion. All of a sudden, the man, Becky Lynch, comes running in and saves the day. She beats the hell out of Lacey Evans and including a Beck exploder into the wall on the outside. John Cone, who is the referee from Baron and Seth's match at Super Showdown a couple weeks ago, is the replacement referee in this matchup. Corbin eats a super kick and a stomp. Seth wins and retains the championship. I'm going to give this one star out of 4. It is disappointing that after match after match after match with really solid action and excitement and everything, the main event is bogged down by this story. I'm not saying it's a bad story. I just think that after all this build for the special referee and all this is your main event of the show, of your pay-per-view, and this is how you choose to end it. It's very Raw-like to me, and that this is a show, this is an ending that belongs on television, not on the pay-per-views. I know the pay-per-views and their meaning and their significance in the grand arc of things is a lot different now than it was, say, 20 years ago. I get that. But I think when you're promoting it as a big fight, a big show, I think having this kind of pantomime with it and all this ballyhoo and everything, I think that just really diminishes, especially when you look at everything else going on in the show. You have all this action, all this great storytelling in the ring, and you got this thing. And it's just like, it's so status quo, like what we're seeing here. It's, you know, it's not authority per se, but it's someone who's kind of a proxy for the authority going against, you know, the plucky, you know, champion, the babyface champion, all that stuff. And also the biggest elephant in the room is the fact they have now, you know, in the last few weeks, they have definitely made public, hey, Seth and Becky are boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, you know, I get it. They're the power couple in the company right now because they're both very good at what they do. They're both the champions, their respective brands, and it's great. You know, it's a very happy story, and I'm happy for them. But I was always afraid they were going to, once that they made this public, it was going to turn into a storyline, and that's what we're getting here. We are going to see that mixed tag team match somewhere down the line, sooner than later. And whether the titles would be on the line, I mean, there could be some where both the belts are on the line. I don't know. I just think, you know, I just don't know if I like them turning their relationship into a storyline. I think these two are well enough on their own. They don't need that extra layer. I guess on one level it can make them a little more sympathetic, I guess, or a little more human. I don't know. Very much on the fence about this. I will say, to their credit, and I might be proven totally wrong about this within 24 hours after the words come out of my mouth in this recording, but at this moment, I do like the fact that Becky and Seth are treated as equals in the relationship. Like, it's not an issue of Becky is this damsel in distress, like, say, you know, Elizabeth to Macho Man, or for a more modern reference, Brie Bell to Daniel Bryan. Like, she is a fighter. She is a badass. She will go toe-to-toe. So on the one point, as of right now, I am very glad to see that it's not going to be one of those kind of hackneyed old storylines where the big strong man's going to help his girlfriend and save the day. And like, you've got these two competitors who are, like I said, kind of treated as equals in their respective fields. We will, I mean, I'm kind of surprised we didn't see like Becky take a shot at Baron in this matchup. I'm sure we'll see that at some point in this build, but we didn't get that here. Also, something we didn't see, how come you got like, you know, this couple and like they don't kiss at all, like at the end of the show? Like, that was really weird. Like, I mean, I know we're PG, but come on, you can't even kiss? What the hell? I think that for a show that from the very beginning was given pretty much a eulogy by a lot of fans and pundits out there from the absolute beginning, for all those reasons I mentioned at the top of this review, I think the wrestlers in this show, the men and the women, went out there and just laid it all on the line and really wanted, I bet you anything, they just wanted to prove a point. And they wanted to show you that, yes, the name of this show is goofy. And yes, it's a lot of rematches. And yes, there's not much build. And yes, the ticket sales are poor. But we're going to go out there and we're just going to steal the show and we're going to kick ass and take names. God bless it. They got me doing the catchphrase now. But anyway, my whole point is they really went out there and I think they wanted to make a statement to all those naysayers out there who said this show is going to suck. It's not worth our time. This show is worth your time. If you missed it because you were afraid it wasn't going to be any good, I recommend you go back and you watch it, because except for maybe the main event, I think you will be very much entertained. And to an extent, I am willing to reach halfway and say, you know, there is some redeeming quality to the storyline we're seeing here in the main event, where you've got, you know, Baron and Lacey working together and there's this new power couple taking on Becky and Seth. I maintain the fact that this kind of angle really should have been saved for a Raw and not for a pay-per-view, but that's just my take on that. I think otherwise, besides that, pretty much every other match delivered, especially Kevin Owens and Zayn versus the New Day, Ricochet and Joe, and the cage match, and Roman and Drew also was kind of up there there on that bubble for me as far as like good to great matches. Yeah, I think that's pretty much my take on it. It's a really, really good show. Kind of a sleeper hit for the year. Not saying it's the best show of the year, but it damn sure exceeded expectations. And when you have low expectations, it can make shows a lot better. I think a combination of the really high quality in-ring action, along with a crowd that, even though it was small, was super into it pretty much the entire time, the entire length of the show, makes for a very pleasurable experience for watching it. Let me know what you thought about Stomping Grounds in the comments section below. Give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And remember, hashtag Team Dolph or hashtag Team Dilp. I'm Bryan Zayn, and I'll see you next time.
Jump, jump, jump for justice. We'll chop, chop, chop and thump. We'll stomp, stomp, stomp for freedom. And we'll run and...
Jump?
Jump, jump, jump for